stars. Oh, the music's playing. You're my favorite song. You know this can't be wrong. It's not, it belongs to you and me. To you I pray. You're my holiday. You're my blue jean dancer. Through my dreams you run. The hope for the love. For the clouds above you shelter me. You don't seem to care. Is anybody there? There is no reason, there is no answer. Is no answer. Can you hear the dandelions roar?
Well, good day. Welcome to Endurance Room. We're down at the Swan Swamp, camping out.
Stealth camping.
Yeah, we came down last night to try out Catherine's sleeping bag. This is
a Kelty 0 degree synthetic bag. The model is the Tuck. It's an awesome bag. It's huge. It fits both of us inside it. And he's 6'2" and like 200 pounds, and I'm barely 5'4" and like 130. It keeps your feet really warm. It's like doubled up, which is really nice because, you know, your feet always get cold.
we didn't even use a ground mat. We
just used the deer hide.
The deer hide. Piled some extra leaves up.
It's a little heavy, but if you have a big caveman to carry it, it's all good.
Yeah. No, definitely. It's got a thumbs up for me.
Kelty Tuck 0 degree synthetic. I usually just keep this in the back of my Jeep just in case. We learned last weekend it's always important to keep emergency camping stuff that keeps you warm. We had a radiator issue. We ended up spending an extra night out. We had already been planning to cold weather camp, so we had all the stuff with us already. But if we didn't, we would have been screwed. So always keep like more than you think. Keep some extra food, flashlights, a warm wool blanket, a sleeping bag, something. Always keep it with you, just in case, especially when it's cold.
Something that I've been playing around with my fire building lately has been making an enclosed space with larger pieces of wood, logs, what have you, and then just feeding that with smaller pieces, getting a coal bed going, and it makes basically a stove. It lets you minimize your fuel consumption and still have a nice, warm, usable fire. We got 3 or 4 hours of use out of this last night. I just picked up a deadfall log and used it as a backing, and then cut some of the excess of my windbreak here and fed it. I just stacked the pieces up around it, and then I used smalls from around the area to feed the ember pile. It works out really well. If you're familiar with a Siberian long fire, it's almost a similar concept where they're taking 2 large logs and sandwiching them together on top of each other and building the fire in between the logs. I used the technique in an earlier video where I was at Heart's Content in Allegheny State Forest. It works awesome. They use this in Siberia where it's really, really cold to have a nice warm fire all throughout the night. They use huge logs to do it, but I've done it with, stuff that's 4 inches round. Right here's my windbreak, and even those logs would work. It's definitely worth exploring. Check out the Siberian long fire if you haven't seen it. Something even simpler is just stacking the wood and making a container of sorts for your fire. Kind of like I've done here. This is burned down. We've had this fire burning for the last hour or so. Just a little cubby hole for the twigs to burn. And it works real well. You just feed it with twigs after it burns down and keep the coal bed going. And the larger material smolders and smolders over time. Works awesome.
Siberian log fire,
You just-
Siberian husky.
Add some sticks.
We are in Siberia. Washy. Do that funny thing where you look upside down. Washy. Nana. Yo.
Our shelter for the night was a Plash Palatka poncho pyramid suspended from an overhead ridge line. And once again, the ponchos are lashed together down through the buttonholes. Just some paracord. We've got a bowline on the end there, and that's enough to stop it from going through the poncho, and then it just run down the seam. And then it comes out, and it's used as a guide line to get a little height. Right here, I've got, my back. Right here, I've got my backpack in this back corner, just to lift up the back end. Another guide line, lashed off right at the ridge line. After all the experimenting that I've done with the Palatkas over the last year, this is still probably my favorite shelter that I've come up with. We slept in the shelter lengthwise from that corner to this corner, and that leaves the whole back end for storage for your gear. The poncho right here, it's folded in half, but you can bring this around and stake it down and give you much more room, or you can close off the front of the shelter, which is what we did last night. With the 3 ponchos, it is, I think it's like 8.6 pounds all combined for pretty significant shelter.